I'm from Hawaii. I'm not from Colorado, but I lived here about half my life, so I actually consider myself both. And when I moved up here, I was the Hawaiian kid who everybody thought was Mexican. And from the very get-go, I had to learn how to fit in. Do you guys go through that? Going someplace new, not being like everybody else. And it can be scary. But with what I share with you guys are going to also find out, but that's who God created us to be. Why would we want to be the same as everybody else? So I know Ryan told you my topic was peer pressure. And let me tell you guys this, I've done it on both ends. It started off where I was the person getting peer pressured, and then I became a person who loved to peer pressure other people. And peer pressure, a lot of people perceive it as a bad thing, and for the most part it is. But peer pressure can be a good thing. And I'm going to share with you guys what that looks like. I moved here when I was 7, and I started off right down the road at Pinello. I went to Sproul, and I'm sorry if there's any Widefield people in here, but I went to the real high school in District 3. I went to Mesa Ridge. We got anybody here that goes to Mesa Ridge? I feel sorry. I'll pray for you guys. Would anybody like to guess what year I graduated? We got somebody who's right. You got that right on the head. 2005. So the school was only 6 years old. And when I was coming up through District 3, I was one of those kids where I got good grades, but I promise you there was not a week where I wasn't in detention or I wasn't kicked out of school. And I don't want to share with you guys some of the things I did. It's not embarrassing to me, or it doesn't hold me hostage or anything like that, but that's not who I am now. But I can tell you that I was the kid that didn't want to be in class. When people came up to lecture or tell me something, I would be the kid in the class in the back being disruptive. And I don't want to tell you guys what to do, but I also want you guys to understand, because I don't want you guys walking away from this thinking, oh, well, he encouraged me to do this. You guys, we're going to do stuff where we make mistakes. And I'm not, again, encouraging you guys to go make mistakes, but when you guys make a mistake, don't run from it. Because I did that for years, and eventually it catches up to you. And eventually it even starts to change your heart and who you are. And you guys don't want to let that in. And I know you guys, some of you guys have read the Bible, some of you guys are just getting into it. But there's so many stories in the Bible where God created all of us to be unique and different. What would have happened in the Bible if somebody peer pressured and said, let's do it my way instead of God's way? There's a chance that, we may not be here today. So going to District 3, I kind of shared with you guys that I'm Hawaiian, and, growing up, people thought I was Mexican, and I couldn't really fit in. It was always me trying to, how do I fit in with? And I know it's alive today. I'm not going to ignore the fact, but I don't go to high school today, so I don't know what that's like. But when I grew up, racism was a huge thing. And I know that it's true today, but back when I went to school, it was in the open more, and it was okay. So when I came up here, I got in trouble a lot. First of all, I have a big mouth. If you know me already, you know that. But I hung out, all my friends were either Mexican or black. And so growing up, I had a label. And I didn't do anything to help with that label because I got into trouble. But I found that the group I was with, I shared common ideas and feelings with, because we always felt like we were not included. And being the Hawaiian person that came to Colorado, I didn't fit in. People didn't accept me. And then there was some people that would start to do things to me to manipulate me. But I was young, and I let them manipulate me. So that's, the very first time where I can remember having peer pressure in my life. And I just wanted so bad to fit in with everybody else. Does anybody else here feel like that? It's okay, yeah. That's okay. You'll see in the Bible, we all want to, the theory is we all want to smell like sheep. We all want to be like each other. We all want to do what God commanded us to do. But here's the thing. Each one of you, God gave a different talent to. So in allowing somebody to peer pressure me, I'm not being what God created me to be. I'm being whatever I'm being influenced by. And does anybody else feel like that, where I'm destined to do this, but I'd rather go do this with my friends? Or as a young adult, because you guys are entering that, here's my goal of what I want to do with my life, but here's all the things that fill me up now. And you guys are going to find out that anything worth going after takes hard work. So I took the easy way out. I let everybody else tell me how to do things, and I let peer pressure become a really big part of my life. And then I started doing it to other people. I had a chip on my shoulder because, like I said, growing up, I always wanted to prove, I can fit in with you guys. I can fit in with these guys. And the more you guys get to know Pastor Ryan, you guys will actually find some pretty unique and interesting things about him. He is a man of God. If you guys haven't seen that already, get on the ride, because that guy has a passion for helping you guys out. And I know oftentimes when you're being told what to do, or when it feels like that, I don't want to listen to that. Not me. But I'm going to ask you guys, I'm not going to tell you guys, but that voice that's going on in your head, that moral compass telling you, I should do this, and you go and do this, sometimes it's embarrassing. Sometimes it makes you angry. But the most it does is it makes you feel alone. And it's dangerous when we're alone. The devil wins when he makes you think you're all by yourself. I can look at some of you out here and I can tell that there's going to be differences. You're raised in a different part of the country. Me and you aren't going to be the same. Me and you aren't going to be the same. We aren't going to be the same. But we all have this moral compass in us. And that's God, guys. That's a gift God gave us. And so, as I mentioned, I'm not encouraging you guys to make mistakes. But I can tell you, as the guy who made a lot of mistakes, running from them, not facing them, and this is a big one I didn't realize until I was older than you guys, putting people around you that have Jesus in their life might save you one day. Because like I said, I never thought I'd be working for a church when I was a kid. When I was in high school, at 5'7" and 125 pounds, I was going to be a professional basketball player. Nobody could tell me otherwise. And this might be a little bit older for you guys, but there's a guy named Muggsy Bogues. He's the shortest guy that ever, well, Spud Webb technically is, but he was one of the shortest people to ever play basketball. And in high school, I read that book. And if anybody told me I wasn't going to be a basketball player when I grew up, you're wrong. But my actions, let alone my stature, wouldn't let me get there. My actions wouldn't, that's you? My actions wouldn't let me get there. And so what happened was I came to school here and I never fit in. And then I moved back to Hawaii when I was 18. After I graduated Mesa Ridge in 2005, 2 days after I was back in school and I was already doing college. And I went out there with no mom and dad, let alone, some of you guys actually know my mom and dad. And if you knew them back then, the people that you know them to be now are completely different people. But I wasn't raised from the age of 7 to 18 with Jesus in my life. And I'll tell you guys this straight up. If you would have told me that back when I was a kid, I probably would have made fun of it because I didn't know what it was. And I'm sure a lot of you guys face that. I mean, my friends call me Jesus freak now. And guess what? I love it. Because that's who saved me. That's who saved all of us. But there's going to come a time in life, many times, where Jesus might be your only friend. And he's for you, not against you. But I had no idea of who Jesus even was. When I was a kid, I was in church. But from age 7 to 18, I was up here. And my mom and dad didn't have me in church. The first church we went to was right down the road. You know what they told me when I went in there? They told me as a first grader that if you celebrate Halloween, you're celebrating the devil. And I'm here to tell you guys, no, that's not. There's people that do that. But as a first grader, Halloween was dressing up and getting candy. That was enough of a scare for my mom and me and my dad to go, we're not going to church. So from 7 to 18, there was no church. And then I moved back to Hawaii. And my mom and dad were up here. And I lived with my grandma and grandpa. And they were too old to be trying to take care of an 18-year-old. So what happened with me, and when I look at the fingerprints God has in my life, was in college, I worked for Radio Shack. I had a full-time job, went to full-time school. I had a full ride scholarship, even though everybody I went to school with is like, how did you graduate? I kept the good grades, I just got in trouble all the time. But I ended up doing college, and in college, and you guys are gonna run into this, hopefully it's not with me being the tech guy, but I went to a school where the teachers didn't know how to use their projectors, the teachers didn't know how to use their PowerPoint, and so my class became me teaching the teacher how to use tech. They had more computers than Whitefield did back then. But this is in Hawaii. They didn't have, so growing up there, it's a lot different. The level of education is a lot different down there. But anyways, so I'm going to school teaching the teachers how to use their stuff. So for me, college, it was boring. I don't want to go to school. I'm doing the teacher's work, and I'm not learning. And so I started to go out and meet new people. And this is all, I'm 19 years old and no Jesus in my life and no parents. And some of you guys are coming to years where you're going to face that. But there's a difference between you and me. There actually is and isn't. Jesus is always there for me. I just never knew who he was. And some of you guys here know exactly who Jesus is. Some of you don't know him the way you should, but you will one day, because the way God works is, and you'll hear this a lot, you got to give it your all. Give him everything. But the way I discovered, which by the way, I'm not encouraging that too, give him everything. But you're going to find out whenever you guys don't give him everything, once you enter into a relationship with Jesus, he's going to get it from you anyway. It might be tomorrow, it might be 10 years from now, and I pray that it's not for you guys, because it didn't take me till 28 years old to understand what God does for people, who Jesus is. Why are these people so much different? So when I'm in school, I'm bored, I'm looking for things to do. I don't have a good support system around me. And my cousin introduces me to a friend who, looking back, wasn't really a friend, but I go out with my cousin, we meet a couple of his friends, and I tried doing stuff like smoking. I think 5th grade, I got caught smoking cigarettes. I didn't graduate DARE because of it, if DARE is even a thing still. I maybe tried weed once or twice throughout high school, and it wasn't for me. But then 5 years later, because I allowed other people to give me my identity, because I was seeking approval, because I was trying to fit in, all of a sudden the things Keola wouldn't do, Keola was doing. And when I moved there, I was clean. If you guys know my mom, she'll tell you, The version of me that moved there and the version that she's seen a few years later was completely different because I didn't have a support system, because I didn't know Jesus. So I got into doing drugs with friends, and I allowed them to shape who I thought I was going to be. And then once I thought I knew who I was without Jesus, I told everybody who I was. And then I started doing other drugs, and then I started selling them. And then I started peer pressuring other people because I'm this great guy that can control other people's minds. And that gave me a thrill. And I'm going to tell you guys something. Most people that do that stuff, that's what they want from you. They don't want you to actually do it because they want you to enjoy the time. They want you to do it because then they have control over you. And let me tell you guys something. God didn't create you guys to be that. There are going to be times where we fail. There's going to be times where we cave into peer pressure. And again, I'm not encouraging it, but what I am encouraging is when those moments happen and you fall down and you hit your face, don't sit there. You can't just sit there because, again, you're alone. Then the enemy has you guys right where he wants you. And whether you guys know it or not, then you guys start doing things that isn't, something you're supposed to be doing. It's not something that God told Alex to do. It's something Keola told Alex to do, right? It wasn't something God told Kaysen to do. It was something that his friend told him to do. And next thing you know, that just continues to happen, and it shapes your identity. And if that happens to you, even though I'm discouraging it, it's still okay because we have a God that's bigger than that. So what I want to encourage you guys is when you guys are in a group and someone's making fun of you because you're a Christian and you're a Jesus freak and you're different, guess what? When God told us he was going to come back one day, what he told us was going to happen to us as Christians, that comes with it. We're going to be persecuted. We're going to be set aside because we live life differently. What are we going to do, guys? We're just going to roll over and let them do that? Or are we going to let God speak into our life? Because he already is. And are we going to be who God created us to be? Because I'm going to tell you guys, when I went out to Hawaii, when I did all that stupid stuff, when I fell on my face, I sat there. And I sat there for years. And then next thing you know, the drugs are taking more control over my life. I had a kid during all of that. The mom left me multiple times. You see, I set myself up for failure, and Jesus saved me. And what I'm telling you guys here today is, if you have Jesus in your life, if you fail, it's not the end of the story. It means press further. Look for a good friend that's rooted in Jesus. Go to a place where they're complete strangers. Get outside your comfort zone. Because what happened was I sat there. I let the enemy define who Keola was. Meanwhile, God had all this purpose for me. I didn't work at Radio Shack for nothing. I didn't help these teachers figure out how to use their ProPresenter or PowerPoint or projector, or they can't get the audio to work. You see something? I had all those skills in high school, in college, after, but I did nothing with them. And God gave me those gifts. And what did I do? I went the other way. I said, I'm going to do it Keola's way. At the time, because I didn't know Jesus, I said, all right, we're good. Because everything seems to be working out. Because I got all this money, because I have a girlfriend, and I have a kid, and I'm this, and all it was this. I'm this big guy, and me. And then when I fell, it took me so long to get out of it. But you know what happened? My mom and dad came to this church. And you can make fun of them later too. I'm giving you guys full permission. I have a sister and 2 cousins. And the 2 cousins that live with us, their dad was murdered. And it's because we were out there doing and dealing drugs and all that. And my uncle was only 12 years older than me. I looked up to him like a brother. But at that time, none of us had Jesus in our life. So I continued to do that. And when I fell on my face and when I reached out for help, even though I was ashamed because that's where the devil wanted to keep me, guess what? My mom and dad wanted to help me. And the first time, I think I was 24 years old. And I was kind of surprised because the version of my mom and dad that I left wasn't the version that I got. So I did the thing where I was, oh man, I don't want to look stupid. I'm not telling mom and dad. I'm 24 years old. I can't live with mom. I can't. Guess what? I couldn't live life, period. I was a crackhead. I was a drug dealer. I was stealing from my family to make ends meet if I had to. And I'm supposed to be a father. I wasn't a good one. But when I seen the transformation that took place in my parents, when people come into your life that are trying to influence you and they find out you're different, you're going to influence them where they need to be influenced. You're going to bring them to Jesus because he's the only one, not Keola, not you individually. Your actions can do it. But it was such a scary thing for me to fall on my face as an adult. And I had to ask for help. And I was expecting a no. And they helped me. And then I came to the church. And I was like, I walked through these doors, this very room, and said, nobody's as bad as me. And then I heard a testimony. And then I said, man, if there are people like this in here, if they can go through life praising Jesus, even though they went through all that other stuff. First of all, I was like, what are they on? No, that wasn't it. Because it was all the time, even in times of hardship, praise Jesus, praise Jesus. I needed to know what that was. So I got involved. And then next thing you know, Keola's changing. Jesus is changing me. And then I go, okay, well, I got this. And I went back into me mode again. And then I went back to Hawaii because there's so much change Jesus did for Keola. My ex wanted to get back with me. And I went back. I wasn't listening to Jesus. I said, this is what Keola wants to do. You see, guys, I had to say a hard no. When you guys get older, some of you guys are going to have kids. And I'll tell you as a father, I never wanted to leave my son, still to this day. And I get labeled, and you know what? That's what the enemy tries to put on me. That's not who I am. I loved my son so much more than I love drugs. And I'll tell you guys this, at that time, I was an addict, so I loved drugs. I chose my son over the drugs. And I said I had to leave because Jesus told me, you ain't doing it here. And I didn't know that was Jesus at the time. But I was in the same environment, expecting different results. So I took that chance. And I came here thinking I was this. And then God put me on my knees. Some of you guys have parents here and friends here that all poured into my life. You guys have friends here that you guys don't even realize yet that you're pouring and planting seeds. Well, I want to tell you guys this. If you make a mistake, don't run from it. Don't run from it. I don't expect you guys to run to fix it either, because it's counterintuitive to how we've been brought up or how you handle things. But it's not okay to stay there. And when you guys are in groups and things like that, I said it probably 12, 13 times. God created you to be unique. So why would you let somebody else change who God created you to be? God has you there because you're the influence. You're the person. And when I was telling you guys peer pressure doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, this is what I mean. You guys are there to influence people who don't know Jesus. The guys like me who thought this was all weird when I was a kid. We're all going to need him one day, and you don't want to wait till it's too late, right? So guys, I want to ask you guys some questions. But what I want you guys to think about as we're going through some of these questions, not what Keola would say, not what you would say. What is Jesus telling you? And then I'm going to ask you guys a few things. And this might be a little hard, but we're going to talk about what to do differently. I'm going to tell you guys this. My answer isn't going to be the right answer, other than you guys need to follow Jesus as best as you can. But what I tell you might not apply to your situation. It might not be something you face. So I would be giving you ammo for a gun you're never going to use. But guys, I know you guys get it because I was the kid on the opposite end going, ooh, these guys are weird, right? How many of you guys face that in school today? How many guys make fun of you because you're different? Why do you think they do that? Yeah, go ahead.
People are more afraid of other people being different, not being accepted.
That's very true. Is anybody else, Jocelyn?
Jealousy.
Jealousy? What do you mean? Like they have something you want to be or that kind of a?
At least when I was getting bullied and stuff, I noticed that a lot of it was other people were jealous of friends that I had or things that I had.
Okay. Anybody else got anything on it? No? Go ahead. What was that? Why do you think we allow people to peer pressure us? Or actually, the question was, why do people peer pressure us?
I think they probably do it because they just, it's probably like a pleasure almost. Like they want to,
Yeah, that was me.
they want to get you into that spot just because they're probably in that spot as well.
Okay. That was me. So we heard a couple of different answers, right? And all of them are right because they're jealous, because it's different, because they want control over you. Guys, I was in a gang, and this is the most gangster thing I ever did was have self-control. That was more gangster than being a gangster. When other people were trying to tell me what to do and I did it, that's no self-control. But I was living in it, so I didn't realize it. Until I realized, wake up. This isn't who I'm supposed to be. Somebody's telling me inside that this isn't what I created you to be. And I had to be bold. And you guys might be facing that at a younger age than I did. So I want to speak it into your guys' life now. Be bold. Don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to be a Jesus freak. Don't be afraid. Because I tell you what, all those skills I had went nowhere because there was no purpose for them. God gave me a tool bag and a set of gifts. And because I did it Keola's way, it didn't work. But when I got humbled, and I pray all of us are humbled, and I'm praying that some of you guys don't have to go through what I went through to be humbled. I pray that some of you guys have that in you. That you guys have a great family that's already started pouring. You guys have a great youth pastor in Ryan. You guys have great influences around you. I pray that they're speaking that into your life, that you don't have to be humbled like that. And I didn't, though. And so when I had nothing, and I realized that Jesus was the only thing I had, and then I realized that's all I needed, all those gifts that I had came to life. Because I was trying to do it Keola's way, I did all these videos and all this graphics and editing and all that went nowhere. But the moment I decided to allow Jesus to use the gifts that he gave me, all of a sudden there's life in the work I was doing. All of a sudden, what I thought was just tech, what I thought was just graphics, what I thought was just whatever, there was now a purpose behind it.